Hello, my name is Cameron Durbin. I'm a student at Boyce College. This is Church History 2, and my subject matter for my biographical project is Karl Barth. He is a Swiss theologian and a crafter of what we know today as neo-orthodoxy. Now, in early life, 1886, Karl Barth was born in Basel, Switzerland, to his father, Fritz Barth, who was a professor of theology at Reformed Seminary in Basel. And then later Bern, as they moved to Bern, and that's where Karl was raised. Education, Karl began his primary education in 1904 at the University of Bern, following in his dad's footsteps as a theological education. He then soon moved to the University of Berlin, where he studied under Adolf von Harnack, who would become a great influence in his work. Later education, he would move to the University of Tübingen and the University of Marburg, where he was taught by Wilhelm Hermann, who he refers to a lot in many of his works later in life. Karl, in his ministry and service, his first ministry role was in 1909, as he spent 2 years as a pastor in Geneva, later moving to Safenwil, where he'd meet his wife and have his 5 children, 4 boys and 1 girl. He would be pastor there for the next 10 years till 1921. Due to his writings of the Brief about neo-orthodoxy, he was then appointed as professor at the University of Göttingen. And then from there, he would move on to professor of dogmatics and New Testament exegesis in Münster. 1930 to 1935, he would move as professor of systematic theology in Bonn. And here is when Nazism was on the rise, and we'll get to major contributions where Barth contributed his writings, the Barmen Declaration. And this actually got him expelled from the school and kicked out of Germany. But he was received well from his writings and his viewpoint in 1935 as he moved back to Basel and became professor of systematic theology there. And then he served there until retirement in 1962. Barth's major contributions include his opposition of the anthropocentric focus of the Protestant liberalism. Now, he did have many liberal professors whom he looked up to, but life would soon shape him as he saw the Nazi controversy and just war unfold, that he would then turn to a more orthodox status. He turned, because of his displeasure for Protestant liberalism, he turned to Romans, Paul's epistle to the Romans in the Bible, for answers. He would then write a commentary, that Brief, that gave him his first appointment as professor in Göttingen. This is where he would discount Protestant liberalism and craft what we call a neo-orthodoxy, very Christ-centered faith and study. His other contribution is he fought against the Nazi influence with the Barmen Declaration. Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party were demanding a declaration or a pledge to Hitler himself, and Barth would not do it without including a statement that he would do that to the extent that he is a Protestant. He would actually send that declaration to Hitler directly, and that was quite the stance of faith that many most likely would not have had at that time of persecution. He would then write his largest and most influential work, the Church Dogmatics. It was 13 volumes. His theology, he believed that theology properly belongs within the context of the church. He had 5 theological rubrics based in biblical and church historical facts of revelation, God, creation, reconciliation, and redemption, and how those are what are a rubric or a guideline for faith in Christianity, and just to turn to a very Christ-centered focus once again. As far as interlocutors and influencers and opposers, like I said, Adolf von Harnack at the University of Berlin Barth would think he was one of the brightest leaders of biblical theology at the time. Actually, at his time in Berlin, Barth would go on to state that he liked Berlin, but missed out on much of the charm of the city because he was so enthralled in the works and the lessons of Harnack himself. An opposer, obviously, Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party. The Third Reich was trying to influence the German church and German Christianity to justify their works and persecutions against the Jews. And once again, Barth was not having that and actually took a stand in a personal work fighting against that. And finally, Wilhelm Hermann, his professor at Marburg, and I also believe was a professor at Tübingen, the third and fourth schools that Barth would go to. He was a Protestant liberal. He believed the Christian faith was not from historical research, but the heart of one who's encountered revelation in Christ. And he would reference him in many of his works, and Wilhelm held him in high regard until he decided to follow more Christ-centered work. Okay, that is Karl Barth, once again, a Swiss theologian who firmly believed in the true doctrine of the Bible and Christ, and fought against the liberalism that was rampant at the time, and led to much of the issues that he would later address and influence for the better. My name's Cameron. This is my biographical project for Church History 2. Thank you.